Hey guys, Probable1701 here, and today we're going to talk about the Doctor Who episode, or story I should say, The Moonbase, which is my personal favorite Cyberman story and one of my favorite second Doctor stories. Of course, it is Patrick Troughton. It is a four-parter with half of the episodes still existing, episodes 2 and 4, and episodes 1 and 3 being animated. And of all the animations, this one's my favorite. Pre-Power of the Daleks and Power of the Daleks onward, this is my favorite animation. I think the animation here just is perfect. I wish more animations were done in this style. If we ever get Underwater Menace animated, I want it to look like this. Let's go ahead and talk about the animation first, episodes 1 and 3. It was animated by Planet 55, the same people who did Reign of Terror and 10th Planet. But this one was the third and final one they did, and you could tell they had kind of honed their craft and perfected it. Reign of Terror had a few issues, 10th Planet had a few issues, but was better. Moonbase, they really nailed it, and I really wish they had gotten the crack at Underwater Menace. I feel like they deserved. Unlike some of the newer animations where they look a little more cartoonish and they're a little more simplified, there's a lot of detail in the characters. Their faces have angles and lines and are really well defined. They look a lot like their live-action counterparts. They look like the characters they're supposed to be representing really well, whereas in some of the newer animations, I look at the characters' faces and I'm like, that's not quite right. What were they doing there? Kind of like how, as much as I like Macroterra's animation, Ben doesn't look right to me. Or in Faceless ones, Troughton looks a little off, but Jamie really doesn't look right to me. Here, they look the way they're supposed to. They move really well. They look very three-dimensional. You can see their heads turning this way really well. There's their movements are really fluid. It's not a lot of jagged motions, kind of like in some of the newer ones too, where it just seems like there's not enough frames there. Power of the Daleks suffers from that especially. But that really fluid movement, you see their eyes moving, their eyebrows raising properly. And Troughton even gets that classic smile of his in it a few times. There's a very famous picture of Troughton in color from Power of the Daleks when he's holding his diary in one hand and his recorder in the other, and he's got that smile on his face. That shot, he actually does that smile several times in the animations, and it's nice to see it. It's nice they put that in there. The guest stars are animated pretty decently. I do think the guy who runs the Moonbase isn't animated quite right. He looks older in the animations than he does in reality, and he moves around a lot more in the live-action episodes than he does in the animations. But I think the main cast is done really well. The backgrounds are done really well, and the Cybermen are done phenomenally well. The Cybermen look really good in the animations. They have this really inhuman way they move in the animations, too, that actually works better than in the live-action footage. They have this haunting way they move. There's a close-up of a Cyberman's head every now and then. It looks good in the animation. And the scenes in episode 3 at the end, when they're walking across the moon towards the moon base, the whole groups of Cybermen, actually looks better in the animation than it does in the live action. And I don't say that very often. But since they're not held back by the the budget constraints that the actual episodes were originally held to, the animation can take it a little bit further, and so it doesn't look as 60s done on a budget cheap. And the moon actually looks very expansive, and you see this army of Cybermen marching across it. It looks really, really neat, and one of the best animated shots I've ever seen in Doctor Who in the animations is the Cybermen going across at the end of episode 3. Now, of course, I would love for the live-action episodes to be found. If there's one story in Doctor Who I really would love completed, Moonbase is definitely up there. I've done a list on that before, actually, on the channel. I would love to have episodes 1 and 3 found. Mainly just because the animations still don't quite capture Troughton's reactions like the live-action episodes do. So much of Troughton is down to his physical acting, his body language, and his facial movements. So much of Troughton is done with his face. And he's not the only Doctor like this. Tom Baker is like this. David Tennant is like this. Matt Smith is like this. They're all very physical actors that they can convey a lot with a look or an expression. Patrick is very much like this, and you see that in the live action episodes. One of the key moments I always say, if someone wants to learn more about, say, the Second Doctor. One of my favorite moments in all of his run is at the end of episode 2 when he realizes there's a Cyberman in the room with him, and the horror on his face as it occurs to him while the guy who runs the station's talking. You know, well, we've looked everywhere, we haven't seen him, and you just see that look on Troughton's face when it occurs to him, that look of terror and horror where he's, "Hey, come over here for a minute." He says it very quietly. "You said they searched everywhere." "Yes." "Did they search in here?" And he's like, "Well, we didn't. Did they search in here?" You know, that look of just abject fright and terror and horror on his face sells it. And the way he says the lines does as well. And then when he sees that covered up body laying on the table and he's slowly walking towards it, just that look, that tension look of, oh crap, oh crap, oh crap, that look of horror that's still on his face, and then he's backing everybody up slowly. That's acting right there. And that's one of my favorite Troughton moments, because he sells that scene, that just that look of horror that comes over his face when he puts two and two together and gets 4 and knows there's a Cyberman in the room. It's one of my favorite scenes from the Second Doctor. And then I love the fact that in Moonbase, even though the ending is kind of Deus Machina, it's actually with an explanation that makes sense. It's using an element that's already in the story. The gravity generator. I can't remember what it's called, but which is sad because I just watched the story a few days ago. Again, it's one of my favorites. The little gravity generator they use to control the weather on Earth and the gravity on Earth. I mean, that thing can control hurricanes, all this stuff. I mean, it's the whole reason the Moonbase is there. One of the problems I have in Doctor Who is the Deus Machina endings we get a lot of times when he's fighting armies, like armies of Cybermen or armies of Daleks. It's always some kind of last-minute way he has to destroy them. And we see this even in good stories like, you know, Power of the Daleks, or Journey's End, or even you know, Rise of the Cybermen, and even Timeless Children when he takes out the Cybermen. It's one little thing he does to take out whole armies. We see it all the time, and it's a little grating that it's always done like that. It's actually one of the things I like about Victory of the Daleks, is the fact there's a bunch of them and they actually get away and win. Victory of the Daleks is a very flawed story, and I have issues with it, but I like the fact that it has a different formula than most Dalek and Cybermen stories where there's a bunch of them. The Daleks actually don't get Deus Machina at the end. That's one of the reasons I think stories with like only 1 or 2 or 3 Cybermen, like the one with the lone Cyberman, The Haunting of Villa, whatever, I think that one works really well. And the ones with like say 1 or 2 Daleks, like Dalek, like the story Dalek, why they're better is because he has a harder time fighting just 1 or 2 of them than he does armies of them. Because, you know, it's not just some little magic button he presses at the end to destroy them all. He actually has to work for it when there's only 1 or 2 of them. It's one of the reasons I think Dalek is such a strong episode. But here it actually makes sense, because we've already seen that the gravity generator can be used to move ships and stuff, because the Cybermen use it to deflect the rescue ship into the sun, which is another story I would like to see in the modern series. The 13th Doctor ends up on that rescue shuttle and somehow has to save everybody on it. Because can you imagine how terrifying that is? It says in the story that they've been deflected into the sun's gravitational pull and there's no way out. And the guy even says it might take a week, but there's nothing they could do. Could you imagine being on that ship knowing you're just totally screwed and it taking a week for you to die? And they'd probably die before they hit the sun. They would get so hot. That's got to be an agonizing death. And you're just waiting for it to happen, knowing there's no way to stop it for a week? That's terrifying when you think about the implications. But I would love to see a story where, in the modern series, say the 13th Doctor ends up on that ship, realizes what's going on because she remembers the incidents from the Moonbase, and actually has to save the people on it. I would enjoy that. Somebody needs to write some fan fiction about that. Gotta be better than Timeless Children. Anyway, but I like the fact that they use the gravity beam or whatever it is to stop the Cybermen. They actually use the gravity generator to stop the Cybermen. They manage to aim it low enough that it picks the Cybermen off, up off the planet and throws them out into space. and sends them away, just like it did the rescue ship. So there's already it's already established in the episode that can be done. They've established it with when the generator is taken offline, you know, Earth gets in danger from hurricanes, they have to get it back online. They established it by deflecting the rescue ship. So when they do use it to stop the Cybermen, it's not just a magic button out of nowhere. It actually makes sense in the narrative. And I like that. To me, that puts it up several points ahead of the standard Cyberman Dalek story. And that's one of the reasons I like it so much. I think Ben and Polly are great in it. Jamie doesn't get a lot to do. I know at the time he had been added to the cast late after Highlanders. You know, originally he was just supposed to be in Highlanders. And so he just kind of had to be fitted into the scenes because Underwater Menace and Moonbase had originally been written without him. So he just kind of had to be squeezed in. That's why he's unconscious a lot of the episode. But I think they all do a good job. I like the guest cast a lot. And Patrick Troughton's great. Patrick Troughton's always great. The only thing I don't like is the Cyberman design. I don't really care for the Cyberman design in this story, especially that little three-fingered... You know, I don't like the helmets in this one. I think 10th Planet's design looks a lot better. I love the design of 10th Planet because it's inherently terrifying, more so than any Cyberman. Because you can look at that and go, that used to be a human. You're terrified of what it looks like under there. And the fact that in 10th Planet, when they open their mouth to talk, they don't move their mouth. They just open it, and that mechanical voice comes out. You know, it's just... And then you hear that voice, "Oh, we are Cyberman," while their mouth's just... That's creepy. And then... In 10th Planet, you can even see their eyes in there in a few shots. And I'd swear they never blink. Anytime you actually see their eyes, they don't blink. That's really creepy. And you don't really get any of that with the way they do the helmets in Moonbase. That design with the little door opens when they talk doesn't work for me. Also, I don't like their voices. I like the 10th Planet voices better. And I like the voices they use from, say, either Invasion or Revenge of the Cybermen, Onward, Earthshock. I like that better. That Tomb of the Cybermen Moonbase voice just, it doesn't cut it for me. Half the time I can't tell what they're saying. So that is the weak point of it, is the actual way they look and the way they sound. I much prefer the Cybermen design that's used in Invasion and Revenge of the Daleks. Revenge of the Cybermen, and the look that they have starting in Earthshock for the rest of the 80s. Those are my two favorite Cybermen designs. So yeah, the Moonbase, my favorite Cybermen story. Have you seen it? If not, go check it out. The animation is amazing in it, and the live-action episodes are fantastic. Hopefully we'll get episodes 1 and 3 found eventually. That would be great. As much as I love the animations, I want the whole story complete. I'm Prowl1701, PROWL1701. That's also my main channel. Check it out. I review everything Star Wars there. Lightsaber replicas, pretty much anything Star Wars I feel like talking about. Click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications. If there's any kind of video or episode you would like me to review, pop down in the comments and let me know. If it's one I happen to have, I'll give it a review. And most importantly, thank you for watching.